break into them.
The Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
All right, we are live again. And Tulio, we're like a couple minutes late. Maybe you need to be doing the push-ups here, I think. In the background with our producer. Welcome to the Bliss Business Podcast, everyone. The show where we explore how empathy, connection, and purpose transform business from the inside out. I'm Stephen, joined by Mike. And today's conversation dives into the human side of leadership. And our guest today leads with empathy, invests in people, and is building a business culture that reflects trust and autonomy from top to bottom. Mike, introduce our guest today.
It'll be my pleasure, Stephen. Super excited for this conversation today. So today we're excited to welcome Jeff Wharton. Jeff is the CEO of Bloomin Blinds Franchise Corporation. You're probably aware of it. It's a growing national brand that specializes in custom window coverings, repair, and installation. And with over 20 years of leadership and experience in the franchising business and in home services, Jeff is known for blending strong business fundamentals with a people-first approach to growth. And his leadership is grounded in the belief that businesses thrive when they prioritize clarity, compassion, and a sense of purpose, which we absolutely love, Jeff, here on our show. And then at Bloomin Blinds, Jeff has cultivated a values-driven culture where trust, accountability, and service to others are central to the company's success. Rooted in faith and family, Jeff's journey reflects a commitment to leading with intention, fostering meaningful work environments, and helping others grow along the way. So, Jeff, welcome to the show. We are excited to have you here with us today.
Well, Michael, Stephen, thank you for having me. No, I'm thrilled to death to be here as well. Been looking forward to it. And Stephen, we were talking briefly right before we started about it's something about doing these types of things that you get up in the morning and you go, actually, today's going to be a great day. So yeah, exactly. I'm happy to be here.
Delighted. Yeah. And when I was rehearsing that introduction, I was like, wow, this is going to be such a wonderful individual, because bringing faith and family and then the business and, leading with empathy is so key. So Jeff, why don't we just jump right into it? What many leaders talk about, empathy and, it tends to be just sort of like greenwashing. But few really operationalize it and put it into practice. So could you maybe walk us through a little bit, what empathy looks like at Bloomin Blinds, and in particular, how it informs leadership decisions?
Yeah, it's interesting. Boy, it's such a broad category, and all of our personal stories in life of what leads into all of that is huge. But, you asked specifically about Bloomin Blinds. One of the things that was really unique and special about my opportunity to come join a family-owned and operated business at Bloomin was because I had a chance to get to know the founders, the three brothers that actually helped start this business, grow it to a certain point. I got to know them as a vendor, as a partner of theirs on the other side for like over 5 years. And so the nature of my role and serving them, we got to know each other really, really quick and realized we had very, very similar backgrounds and families, and them being Bloomin Blinds at its heart and soul is about serving consumers, other people in their homes. We have a specific widget and product that we work on, but make no mistake, it's about the human relationship. It's about trust. And so their whole family business was built on all that. And so the opportunity to come into an existing business and to help them take this business to the next level, basically transfer all of that wonderful love and knowledge from them, their family, to an entire team and organization of people with that same culture, that same heartful focus to our franchise owners and end consumers. Man, it was just a blessing in disguise. I was at the right place, right time. I was put here. I mean, make no mistake, it was nothing that I did. I believe 100% in that fact that whatever has been going on in my life, my career, it led to that moment, and here we are, and it'll lead to the next one and the next one. So that's a little bit about how I got started, and really what's been a core mission of ours from the beginning was how do we take that love that family started, that I already had in my heart, to continue that through building our organization and our team as we continue to scale and grow.
Yeah.
Wow,
And
it's
so
a
how,
cool story. What
yeah,
a blessing.
Yeah.
how do you do that? I mean, you've got, the franchisees, installers, your corporate staff. So how do you scale that across the organization?
It starts with people. I think one of the things, so there's two elements to it, right? Where it really started to focus internally was with our organization here, as we were growing and identifying people to come into the organization, that hiring and selection process, finding people that actually had that heart. And honestly, especially with technology being the way it is today, I don't necessarily look for someone that has, years of a specific experience with a widget or whatever. We're looking for the right person, the right heart, the right culture. And so we refined our hiring process. And just to kind of put it in a quick synopsis, it's traditional in what we do in terms of that process. But the last part of that process, and this is, even though the founders are not necessarily involved in the day-to-day activities of the business every day, when we get to the final interview process, yes, they are. They come in office, we spend 3 to 4 hours together, we have lunch brought in, we don't talk about work, we don't talk about the job, we just get to know each other with that candidate and get a feel for it. And ultimately, how the family feels about that person, how I feel, how the rest of the team feels about that person, pretty quickly whether that they fit that culture. And so that's the corporate word, right? Culture. But what we're looking for is the ability to love and connect and make eye contact and also be open and honest and vulnerable. It's been a key part of that, and we also do that with our prospective franchise owners as well. That's important. They become part of the family, and quite frankly, they're putting their entire family's nest egg into responsibility of ours, and so we take that pretty personally as well.
Yeah, I feel that's, I've gone through kind of that journey with our company over time, to where our interviews now, it's a lot of time it's the people you're working for or with are the ones interviewing you for the job in our company. But also, I've been told, that was an unusual job interview, because we spend a good chunk of the time, later in the interview, after we establish, okay, you got the technical skills, but now it's just like, let's dive into who you are and what you're about. And like you said, trying to find that culture fit, that match, and if we resonate with each other. And I think that really does make a big difference, like you said, for kind of carrying out that empathy throughout an organization.
It does. I think that's a big part of that empathy. I mean, it's one thing to be empathetic, but the reality is that it has to be two ways, right? I mean, I identify that as love. That's just the nature of human beings. We need that connection, and unfortunately, we start to conceal that or hide it, or all that bad stuff about us, that we need a job, we want a job. But the trick in that is just be open. And so I think that's the part of leadership, is you've got to express that. You've got to be open, honest, let go of your fears, and give the opportunity to that other person to respond likewise. And if they trust you, they will. And that's all we're looking for.
Yeah, and I think like leaders, the ability to be vulnerable, the ability to be open, I think that kind of creates the space for other people to follow suit.
Agreed.
Yeah. I think hearing the word family, it's nice. I know our team at times, they themselves describe it as it feels like family. So for some new ones coming in, it's nice, right, that they kind of find a home, but then also it's congruent, right? It's consistent, right? Because it's the right people in the right place. So let's see. Yeah, so I wanted to talk a little bit about, empathy seems to escape some leaders at the time of a difficult moments, right? So maybe you have a tough challenge or a difficult business decision. So let's talk about some of those difficult moments. And I'm just kind of wondering, Jeff, can you share maybe a time with us when empathy was sort of put to its test? As perhaps a leader, maybe a difficult conflict, burnout, a tough business decision, and how maybe you approached it and still kept empathy at the forefront?
Oh boy, the the one that resonates mostly with me is those relationships that I have with the founders and the owners of the company. So I mentioned the Stewart brothers earlier. The thing is that I joined the organization, and over the course of time and experience and where our business is going, I moved into the executive role just about a year ago. I wasn't brought in as the executive role. And so those relationships, that trust, and my background and experience kind of led them to realize that was my role here. So I'm in a situation now where the owners, the founders of the company, they're that ownership group over everything, right? But they all work for me now too. And so inherent in that, their entire family business, you think every decision that I make or everything we talk about together is viewed as the right one or the right way? No, not at all. It gets questioned all the time. And so I think the way to say that in terms of that challenge, it's naturally instinctive for a lot of people. I feel very confident in what we're doing and where we're going. And the natural reaction sometimes is for me to get defensive. Like, wait a minute. I know that. I know what I'm doing, that kind of thing, to get defensive a little bit. And so that was real quick the test where, no, I need you to trust me. But it's an opportunity to explain it, to have more interactions. It's just a deeper understanding. But that's the thing about family as well in this regard. Hey man, everyone's family understands there's no such thing as a perfect family. That's the beautiful part about family. They will keep you honest. And as you can imagine, the environment that we're in, I got 3 brothers and they're very close in age and they've always worked with one another. And you think when decisions are made that it's really clean and nice and what? No, they might as well be on the floor wrestling and fighting and all those things that brothers do. And right. So that me, now known as the 4th brother, I'll be referred to as Kef from time to time. But I'm also the oldest too. So I play more of dad than brother sometimes now in my new role, but that's part of it. I think that's the nature of it. It is a different level of responsibility. So it's not a specific instance that I'm giving you about that test or challenge to that empathy, but that's real. That absolutely, I think me being able to be vulnerable to the owners of my company, and as well as letting go of my defense mechanism and let that be a conversation, whatever that is, and bring them along as well. And I think understanding, I think, is a way to look at it as well. But they've never had a boss before. This is a family developed business. They've worked for their mom forever. And so, it's a process, but it's that mutual trust and empathy and respect that I think comes back and forth in that unique relationship. And I think things similar happen in the other working relationships you have, like with your spouse or your mother or your brother. And I think there's a lot of relationship to that, but specifically in business, that's my biggest challenge. I've got owners that actually work for me, and that's kind of wrong in and of itself, but it's the fact that we've known each other and trust each other and love each other so much that makes it work. Yeah,
that comment reminds me of a show we did a couple of weeks ago, I think, with and our guest was talking about loyalty, and in order to get loyalty, you have to give loyalty. Yeah, and you built that trust, I think by fostering that relationship, being vulnerable, and now you have it, right? Probably mutually on both sides. So what a great example.
I tell you what, it's whether it be dad, mom, therapist, it doesn't matter. I'm just telling you brought this up, making me think about the brothers. They're all 3 uniquely different age groups. And so you have to deal with them individually as well. It's really fun, needless to say. But my wife loves hearing the stories.
Fun challenge.
Yeah. So I imagine, you're doing a lot of coaching a little bit in some of this activity among brothers and among owners and all that. How do you coach to build emotional intelligence and lead with care?
Yeah, I think it's funny you said it. So I've always thought of myself at heart a coach. I grew up with a great close group of friends from very early age. All we did was play sports, In fact, most of my close friends are either lawyers or coaches, collegiate coaches, believe it or not. So that's always kind of come natural. I just went into a different profession along the way. I think it makes it easier to coach in that regard as a leadership, especially in our organization, because we did start it from scratch, basically. So everyone that works here they're younger. And of course, I guess maybe I'm old, but they've been skill set to a certain point, and we're taking to that next level. Honestly, I think it's them understanding and learning how to trust themselves. They know more than they realize they know. You may not have done certain things before, but it's explaining to them, well, here's why I think you're going to be great at it. Look what you did here. And now you're going to be doing this. And by the way, do it with them. Show them the way. It's like any other, I'm huge about the whole situational leadership thing and matching your leadership style to someone's development level and whatever that task is, right? That's great to be able to take the time to and analyze that in a person or their job. But you can also see it and hear it and feel it in how they communicate or what they do or don't do along the way. And you've got to be able to recognize that. You've got to be present in order to do that. I think that's the other big part of it in coaching. It's got to break it down to the one-on-one. You've got to meet that person where they're at. And there's all kinds of other things that go on with people. The second you think it's just they're in the office that this is an issue. No, most of the time it's something else in their life that's affecting that. And you got to the only way to get a feel for that or respect it is to spend time with them, be present, as they say. And that's true. I mean, I think the reason why we love the whole in-office thing and we have a very open floor plan. That doesn't mean stuff doesn't get done outside the office, but man, hopefully we love working together, but it's also essential to being able to coach appropriately, know where they're at and whatever that task is or state of mind or everything, but you got to be sensitive to it. And I think that's part of that trust factor. I mean, and the culture that we have here. So yeah. I hope that answers the question a little bit.
Oh yeah. No, I think that's a great example. It even relates to the work that we do with our agency. We talk, about meeting your target audience where they're at, right? Because how can you deliver a message or create a connection with somebody if you're not providing what they need at that moment?
Yeah.
So
I think doing it publicly, I think that's one of the things about it is you got to meet those individuals where they're at a lot of times, but also everyone's seeing that kind of coaching and guidance in a group environment. It feeds on everybody, and honestly, they start to feel working with one another. They want to help one another as well. I think that's the cool part about teamwork or teams in general. It is about seeing them begin to self-coach, self-manage themselves, each other, and you're just providing showing them how to do that, why it's important for everyone to do it, that kind of thing. And I get surprised every once in a while here still where I'll see 2 or more people start to collaborate to solve problems on their own. That's not necessarily even their job description, but they're offering help, they're offering insight, and there's a level of comfortability and trust among them to be able to do that. And so that's where I do think that coaching that way, really publicly and overtly helping people, it helps them foster that kind of environment for sure as well. And that's really what it's all about.
All right. We've got an audience question, LinkedIn user. Jeff, how do you recognize and reward empathy within your organization?
Ooh, it's the recognition part. I'm great about, I said I'm great about that. Sounds like I'm feeding my ego. I really try to go out of my way to find reasons to tell people great job or thank them, make it personal. I'm also a big fan. Maybe I do this too much. People would preach against it a little bit, but I also say I'm sorry a lot because I missed something. I didn't see it. I failed to recognize you for this, and I just realized it. Or I know, whatever it is. I think as much as giving praise and that recognition, I think it's equally important for me the recognition is also of what I didn't do or what I didn't recognize. I think that's meaningful to people as well. If you do it right, if it's done personally, and it's meaningful and it's received that way. In terms of the reward side of things, I think most of the reward, in our particular business, the opportunity to provide, let's just say, incentivized programs for that empathy and leadership. It's not that as much as I think that they're recognized because they really do a great job. It provides more opportunities. What they see, and I know this isn't a personal reward, but they see people moving up and getting more responsibility. Of course, with all that will come an increase in pay. So it's not a direct this for that kind of reward system. But I think the people that we have now, they're still here. They're not leaving, and they're having more and more opportunity, more and more responsibility, and their compensation has risen as well. And I think that's part of the reward there. It's kind of a broader scope. It's not the carrot kind of thing. It's just the nature of our business. And so I think that's how the empathy the best way to describe, I think, how it shows itself from a reward type system.
All right. We've got another audience question coming up here. How has your definition of success changed as you've leaned more into empathetic leadership?
Great question. And it's very personal for me, but I started my career and had great opportunities early on, which was fantastic. Timing was a big part of it. My wife has always been a huge part of that. But the 2008, for example, that economic crisis and the particular nature of that business, I lost my job unexpectedly. And I was on that career path. And one of the things that I would tell you is that I recognized it was around that moment in time when I had to call my wife and told her what had happened. See me shifting my seat there?
Yeah.
But there were some other things that I recognized that it's not about me. I had been focused on my career and the next job or the next promotion or the money. And it made me realize, it's not about you. It's about your family. It's about them. It's not about me. It's about them. And I think that was the moment where my definition of success has completely changed. My definition of success is I recognize that I am a mentor. I am a father. I am a husband. I am a son. I'm a brother. I'm a coworker. I'm a boss. I'm a leader. That's me. My definition of success is that other people allow me to be that. And somehow, some way, they trust me with that role. And I see the success. My definition of success now is I've been married for 31 years. I got 4 children who are all awesome and that trust and respect me. And the biggest shock to that happened. So my oldest is 30, for example. A few years ago, after he graduated college and was in the working world, he picked up the phone and called me and asked me a work-related question, leadership or whatever it was. And I never really thought of my son. I'm the one that's been telling you what to do and what not to do, right? But anyway, so the nature of my relationship with my children has changed. And as adults, that's part of the success I see. It's not, that's what I think is the answer to the question. How I determine success or define success or feel successful, it changed the moment when I realized it wasn't about my career. And I started realizing that the career will take care of itself. The money will take care of itself if I just treat other people the same way I've treated my wife and my mom and my brother and my kids, and recognize that to really be a great husband, a great father, a great son, a great brother, it is to be that person. And so I do that. I try to have that kind of conversation now, or be that person to everyone in my life. You can be a complete stranger at Walmart, in the office, you name it. I try to be that person now. And I feel I'm really in a really good place in that regard. So that's what I think how I define success is I'm happy.
I love that. I love that so much. And you kind of mentioned the recession, which kind of triggered a memory of me and my father. My mother and father both lost their jobs on the same day in the 80s recession, came home. And I'll try not to get emotional about this, but seeing my dad step up for the family after that and painting houses and doing whatever he could. He had a computer office job, but now he had to put in the work, for his family. And later at his funeral, this is what I talked about. Mike, take it from here because I'm
No, I appreciate you saying that, Steve, because we talk a lot about on the show how it's not about us, the individual, right? But trying to support others, release, inspire energy and allow others to really become the greater, the better, the better version of themselves. Steve reminds us about that all the time. Is how can I, help you become the better version of yourself, right? And so it ends up not really being about us, the individual. So
it is a wonderful moment, though, when someone, if you're paying attention and you recognize it, when someone thanks you for you being that person to them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You'll have a former coworker, for example, from 10 years ago that you'll run into, and LinkedIn and stuff help facilitate that sometimes. But out of nowhere, they'll just send you a message and congratulate you for something. Or, by the way, I don't know if I ever told you this. You did this for me. It's one of those little moments that's success. That's the reward, right? I mean, like you were describing with your father. I mean, there's all kinds of little moments, I'm sure, where if you actually had a moment where your father was proud of you, right? There's no other reward that you can get that beats that right there. And so I think that's critical.
Yeah, I think some of the best words we can use sometimes are just well done, without following up with any sort of feedback or critique, really. So
yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So Jeff, one of the pillars of our podcast is purpose. As well, in the marketing that we do as an agency, we feel like it's critical. It's a critical component for the companies that we work with. So I like to ask a question about purpose on every one of these shows of our guests. And so the question I like to ask is, what role does having a clearly defined purpose play in the success of a business?
I think it's one of those things that helps us redirect on why we're doing what we're doing. What is the reason why we're doing it? And the purpose, I think, is always about who I'm serving. It's not me. It's not us as coworkers as much. That happens from time to time. But your purpose is to serve others. Who do you serve? And if you want to be very specific about it, what is your job? What is your role and your responsibility? And who are you being paid specifically to serve? I think that's a big part of it, of how you incorporate that into anything that you do. It is about service to others, and what you do and how you do it, how it actually helps that person. And I think that worthwhile work element is hugely important, in job satisfaction as well. But in order for anyone to be really successful, if you're not helping someone else be successful, then you're not doing a good job. You're not doing what you're being paid to do, quite frankly. I think that's the biggest part of that.
And specifically, maybe when you're talking about Bloomin Blinds and all those installers, and then the franchisees, having a purpose, like how would you say purpose serves them as well?
Yeah. Well, I think the purpose is the best way that we kind of try to look at it is what you get to do. It doesn't matter what it is as a franchise owner. When you get a chance to go into a home, you're gifted that. You have a role in helping them create a better home for them and their family. Whether it be security, whether it be temperature control, light control, you're helping them live a better life as a family. You're helping them create an environment that's conducive to family. And everyone's family is different, but you play an important role in that. And so, the flip side to it is, and by the way, they're paying you a lot of money to do a very specific job. Do it well. Do the best that you can do. Give them your all. Use all of your expertise in what you're doing as well. You combine those two things, and they're going to love you for it.
Yeah.
And by the way, they're going to share their story. There's a core business. It's the experience that matters. The window coverings is one thing, the technical part of the product, but it's the experience that matter, and the end result, the environment in which that homeowner is going to get their experience along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. You get to build a relationship that way. So,
yeah. Along those same lines, by the way, as a side note, we're diving deep into technology and AI and playing around, starting to begin thinking about robotics, et cetera, within our industry. And one of the things that we realized right out of the gate, there's a lot of fear about AI, and we're using the technology as a means to enhance human relationships, not replace them.
Yeah.
And that's the cool part about it. The technology itself, by being able to do those tasks, what it does is free time up from that franchise owner or installer or technician from a task-oriented activity they have to do to where now the task can be done automatically. Gives me more opportunities to have more relationship time with the homeowner. And so that's my hope, by the way, for AI and technology when it's all said and done. When the robots taking over, I mean, you get about 13 more months from what I've seen, but no, that's my hope for how technology does change us.
I
we'll see.
Agree with that tremendously. I mean, that's kind of with our AI Chief Marketing Officer platform. It's the way we view it is that it's prompting us to be better humans, basically, to think about these more meaningful questions, to think about building, love and kindness into your stories and how you go about that. And so I do think that's where we need to focus our attention on with AI, and not very many people are focusing on it right now, but for sure, I think that's kind of a tremendous area for growth for society, is if we can accomplish those kind of goals with it. Agree 100% with that. One of the things with franchise systems that I think kind of is challenging is kind of you got to maintain the consistency, right? So you've got all these systems, you got all that in place, but then there's a lot of advantage to having autonomy and empowering the local owners in different ways for, to engage the community and stuff. How do you navigate that kind of issue, which is it's a very tricky one?
Oh my God, it is. And franchising is unique that way. And the best answer I can give you is this, is that's the cool part about being a father 4 times over, and specifically a father, right? Mothers don't have this luxury, but my job is you're going to learn through experience. Yeah, guess what? You're going to fall down. You can't overprotect people from making mistakes. So the reason I say that is this, that perspective has kind of helped on the franchising side of things. We've got a great brand. We got great systems, processes, procedures, we're all into this with them. And we have, but at the same time, it is your business. It is your life. It is your family. You have to take self-responsibility for that. That's one of the things that comes up pretty quickly in that, let's just call it that courting process, is that there are some people that look at this as a way to buy themselves a job. And they're used to being in corporate America and have the job, being told what to do, when to do it, how to do it, that structure that's inherent in that. And this is different. It's kind of I can give you the playbook, the brand, all of it. And we're going to do all these things. And by the way, we got an incredible team that's going to train you and be there to support you, but I still can't do it for you. That's what franchisors want to be, or franchisees want to be able to do. It's the American dream. Own your own family business, create generational wealth, and empower people to do that. But at the same time, I can't protect you from everything, and it's not my fault for everything. So I think that's the unique part of the franchising part of it. We really have to stop. One specific way to put it is that there's a very specific line with regards to employment and joint employer rules, and franchisors not crossing a certain line or enter a gray area where I'm dictating or controlling or influencing your employees, right? And that's one of those weird things, because I certainly in my role, I can't tell you how many franchisor or franchisees ask me to help them with a selection process, because I've been doing this my whole life, for crying out loud. And believe it or not, I know a few things about window coverings to boot. So they're always asking me for help with that. And that's one of those things where I did it early on, just out of, anything I can do to help, I'm happy to do it. But once you learn franchising, I can't cross that. Unfortunately, I can't help you with that. Those are the rules. I can give you some other guidance and direction, and I can steer you to other people that have done this that might be able to help. But that's an example of what we're talking about here. How there are limitations, and it's a respect of that business, of that family, to be able to make those decisions. Sometimes it works out better for everyone involved. They do something a little bit better, and we learn from them, and then it ends up helping all of the franchises. Or B, they just won't listen to us, right? I've given you the playbook, and you think you can still do better. I can't make you do that. But if you're not successful, that's one of the reasons why. Anyway, that's kind of the way I see that particular thing. You got to let them fail, and then pick them up and steer them in the right direction. They get better the next time over.
Yeah, no, I see that. It's always that tricky balance, which is always I'm always interested with, asking franchises how they navigate that area, because it's really tricky, and you do get a lot of innovation if you can let them be autonomous in some way, as well as have the playbook in there. So it's
a process. It's a process, and you got to be present along the way with every franchisee. But as a franchisor, it is one of those things. A, technically, I can't solve the problem for you because the law doesn't allow it. Or B, I can't solve that. I can't do that for you. Otherwise, you won't learn. You won't get better. Those types of things. So that's why I mentioned the dad thing.
Yeah, I get that. So we close our show with this question for everyone. What role do you think love plays in business?
With very few exceptions, love is everything in business. Love is connected somewhere in business, because I still think at the heart of it that business is about people. And therefore you can't remove the love aspect to it. There's probably cynical ways to view that. And there are certainly unique situations where you stumble upon something very, very unique. But somewhere along the way, the motivation, the idea, all of it, I'm just telling you, you don't create your own luck. There is a higher power involved in all this. I know that. I'm a firm believer in that, you guys. I will tell you that all day long. But there's a reason for everything. And whether it be the way we perceive it, good, bad, or indifferent, that's just because we don't understand it, right? So I think love is at the heart of everything that's being done. And you got to be open to that. I think you got to recognize it. It's when you feel like love doesn't exist. When you feel like there's an absence of that, that's when it's really, really sad and unfortunate. And it requires all of us and our love to help that person for sure. But yeah, I know that sounds very broad and generic, but dude, it is everything. Yeah. There is nothing else in business that matters. I don't think anything no human endeavor, no human activity, success, failure, any of it has happened without love, because we were created that way. We were made for that. So yeah, I just think it's the nature of things.
Yeah. I agree with the nature of things. It's this gravity, I think, in our society. Yeah. And that's where businesses, I think, sometimes are being dragged toward that kicking and screaming. Sometimes a lot of great ones running toward it, right? They see it, it's natural and stuff. But it's this interesting process of how love is showing itself in our businesses, and how, like, we talk about building it into systems, which seems a little contrary for some people when you're thinking about, the concept of love, but building into systems to prompt us to be more loving, to be, making those connections, to be kinder with regularity. And we have a tremendous opportunity as businesses, I think, too.
Being small business enables you to do that. As once you get into bigger and bigger, and all of a sudden insurance companies, lawyers, and responses to social media, for example, and that unadulterated feedback from anonymous sources, you start to protect yourself. You start to cocoon. And fortunately for small businesses, we don't have to experience it that much. That's another cool part about franchising. These are families. And so they can incorporate that love into their business, that love into their advertising, their marketing, and do all that stuff and be overt about it and not be ashamed of it. We're still in that phase as well. And it's our goal to maintain that regardless of what happens the next step down the road. And for what it's worth, I've been more and more involved in this day-to-day business conversation, private equity firms and strategic investments and other brands and other businesses. And I'm telling you, I have more and more, we're having conversations about love in essence, one way or the other. And that's great. I honestly, like I said, I think it ties back to that hope thing, Stephen. I feel that it's there. And, I hope it's it's our duty to maintain that. With our relationships, we met each other today. I hope we continue to, if we learn and get just a little bit better about reminding ourselves of these types of things, and we go do something really cool and be mindful of it. Dude, that's a great day. And we need to do that every single day. And if we can start having everybody else in our organizations, our companies, our franchise owners, our customers experience that and then recognize it and pay it forward, I think that's everything. I think that is business. That's what we're trying to do. It's like a referral. There's a t-shirt for you, a referral of love.
No, I love that so much. It's it's great hearing that, like, you're hearing those words being said a little bit more and more in business. Because it really is, it's the future of business. Because if you look at consciousness, where's consciousness going? Businesses will follow that. And so this is where we're going. So it's just a matter of, well, is it 2 years, 3 years, 5, 10 years when we get there? But
one day at a time, brother, one day at a time.
Yep. And
it feels like the start of a movement, I would say.
Yeah.
I want to be.
I think so.
For sure. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for being on the show today, sharing your insights and really your heart as well for just life, and also for the business at Bloomin Blinds. We do want to ask if someone wants to follow up for the listeners, if they want to connect with you later or learn more about Bloomin Blinds, where's the best place for them to do that?
BloominBlinds.com, or email me, jeff.wharton@bloominblinds.com. We're all over the social media stuff too, as well. You can probably get to a hold of us in a lot of different ways, being that kind of business. But yeah, the website's great.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks, Jeff, for the great conversation today. And thanks to our listeners for joining us. If today's episode helps you reflect on how empathy can transform leadership, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone you care about. And we'll see you next time on the Bliss Business Podcast.
Thanks, guys.